Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 20 of A Conversation with Cometan. Today, I am really excited to be doing a little bit of a different video, one that I've never done before. It's going to be a Q&A video, and I'm going to be answering some of the most asked questions, really, that I get, most common questions. And I just thought I would take this time for you guys to get to know me a little bit better as well, and just sort of know my inner feelings about some of the work that I do, because sometimes you can't always capture that in lectures and things or interviews with other people. So I just wanted to sit down and do a Q&A. I've got the questions here. So let's get started. Episode 20. Question 1. Okay. What is it like to found your own religion, or what has it been like to found your own religion? I suppose I'd start by saying that very tiring, all-encompassing, I would say the words. Even though I do have a life outside of astronism, I do have a family life, I do have friends, obviously, and family, and a sort of a career separate to astronism, because I'm still in education, so I'm doing my PhD right now. Astronism has always sat alongside everything I've ever done. So jobs that I've done, or trips that I've been on, or just other types of obligations, astronism has always been there in the background. So I would say, what is it like to found your own religion? I think that is for someone who's going to do this truly, who's truly devoted to it, who's truly vocated, it is all encompassing. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always thinking about astronism, but astronism, it is always there. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a job where it's like 9 to 5, where, you clock off at 5 and then you don't think about it until the next day or till after the weekend. It's not like that. It is 24/7, but it is integrated with my life as well. And as I go through my life and other things take place, astronism develops from that. So I would say it is very tiring, it is very all-encompassing, but it is also very rewarding. It is very unique as well. Not to say that other people haven't founded their own religions, of course they have, but it is something I would say maybe rare, but I would say unique in the sense that no one else has founded astronism. Do you know what I mean? So other people have founded other religions, but no one else has founded astronism. So that's what I would say it is like. Final thing to say with that is that it is, if you're going to do it properly, it is a true vocation. And if you're going to do it genuinely, I've come across in the last, I've been doing this now since I was 15 years old. So I've come across quite a lot of different people involved in religion, in sort of different churches and philosophies and, theologians and people like that. And there are a lot actually who, especially some of them who founded their own movements. There's quite a few who you can just tell they're not vocated to it. They're not serious enough about it. There are those rare people who are, and I class myself as one of those, but there are a lot of people who found churches, for example, just to make money, or just to make themselves look good or feel better. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a genuine love, a genuine pure dedication, vocation to founding the religion. And of course, this takes place across a number of years. When this question asks, what is it like to found a religion? Well, I'm still kind of figuring that out. I'm still founding it. So it will kind of be a lifelong experience for me. So it's probably best to ask me that question again at the end of my life, I may come up with a slightly different answer, because as my life progresses, the founding of Astronism also progresses and changes. But those are the main things I would say that it is like. It is all encompassing. It's always there in the back of your mind, even when you're not actually directly thinking about it, it is there. And so that can be tiring at times, but it is all encompassing. Okay, so question 2. I love these questions. They're really good. What is it like to lead a religion? So I would say that that is a little bit of a different question, isn't it? To lead a religion is something different. It is more dealing with people and individuals. I get constantly emails and messages from people who require my attention, who require my guidance on many different topics. Some of these can be academic, others can be actually very personal to the individual, and they're actually coming to me for some kind of guidance or advice, really. So I would say that what it is like to lead a religion is that it is tying down, of course, and like I said earlier, it is all encompassing and tiring, but it is also very rewarding in the sense that you get to affect people's lives in that way. You are influencing people, you are connecting with individuals who you otherwise wouldn't know. To actually lead a religion, I would say you have to understand people, you have to understand their desires, that their desires aren't always going to align with yours as the religion leader. But I would also say that leading a religion, what is it like? It is exciting. Fundamentally, it is exciting. It is dynamic. It is always changing. You know, people when I do interviews, and you know, in a year's time after the interview, I'll go back again to the same interviewer, and astronomism has changed. You know what I mean? The ideas have progressed. So I would say that there's a lot of change, especially at the beginning of a religion like this, and it is very dynamic. And also you get to you're dealing with people's personal beliefs, personal ideas, personalities. So I would say that leading a religion is fun, exciting, all-encompassing, very tying down. Sometimes I do feel quite tied to it and trapped, maybe you could say as well. You know, I've sometimes felt like that. Earlier on, I felt quite cursed by it sometimes, because I felt like it's just such an obligation. I think now I've come out of that phase, really, and I've sort of understood that it is an obligation that I can fit around my life as well. It isn't something that has to be so all-encompassing. Do you know what I mean? So I think that in that sense, it's become easier. But what I would say is leading a religion is responsibility as well. It is a responsibility. It is something that's something that I gravitate towards. I like responsibility. I can take that on to my shoulders. I can take other people's worries, concerns, needs, and put them on my shoulders. I'm no problem in doing that. Especially when people come to me with philosophical issues, spiritual crises, things like that. You know, you've got to kind of be like a bit of a priest, or like just a guide, really, for people. And I really like that role. I think that I gravitate towards that role, even though I've not got everything figured out. And it sounds kind of silly for me to be saying this at kind of 23, that I'm guiding other people who are older than me as well. But I'm not ageist in that sense. And a lot of the people who actually speak to me aren't either. They still think, you know, just because I haven't lived a long life yet, I think that they sometimes appreciate that. And I think also what it's like to lead a religion is you have to talk to people on the same level. You know, I've always been someone who's very down to earth. Anyone can talk to me. I'll talk to anyone. That's what you have to be like. You can't be, and I've come across people who are like this. You can't be up here and I'm the founder of religion and you're all the minions. And, you know, that's how maybe cults start. But I think a genuine religion, which is, of course, what I believe Astronism to be, and a genuine religious leader is someone who can get on that same level as everyone else and who can relate to those people, who can connect with them, and who, but also someone who is a guide for them. You're not higher than them in any sense. You don't see yourself as, you know, they're the minions and, you know, you're up here. That's not the right way to go about it. I think there are cults that are a bit like that, a lot like that, where there's kind of one leader and you have to do everything they say. I think that my approach is more, I think my approach is more to get on the level of each person and treat them as individuals, treat them as unique beings, which of course relates to the Astronist ontology of uniquitarianism, which is to treat every person as an individual, as a unique, as having unique circumstances. And that is the case for majority of people who I interact with. So that's what it's a little bit like as to founding and leading a religion in my current knowledge of those topics. Question 3, what is your favorite part of astronism? This is really, I love this one. This question is difficult to answer because I love so many parts of astronism. I love all of it. And I think that the word astronism obviously encompasses so much. It's very difficult to try and narrow that down. I would say, though, what I love about astronism isn't, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier when I was looking at the questions. I was going to say transcension, which is obviously the main astronist dogma, which I do love. But then I was also thinking about cosmocentrism, because that's our worldview, and astronism wouldn't exist without that. But then I think actually more fundamentally than those, what I love about astronism is its theme. And that is the theme of outer space and space exploration, the astronomical world, those things, that theme, that underlying theme of what astronism is. That's what I love about astronism the most. That in a way, to practice astronism, you don't have to go into any specific building. You can literally just go out into your garden at night and look up at the stars and begin to think about ideas and the world and human future. That's astronism. That is practicing astronism. So that's what I love about it. And in order to do that, of course, there has to be this theme, this underlying theme of outer space. And that is what we look up towards with hope and belief. And so that's my favorite part of astronism, is that you can practice it anywhere. We used to call it, and I still do, from the Omnidoxy, we used to call it omnality, the omnality of astronism, the all-encompassing nature of it, the universality of it, that anyone, anywhere, no matter who you are, what background you're from, what you look like, what country you're from, you can practice astronism. Any age, any amount of wealth, we're all on the same level, and that is the terrestrial level, the human level, and of course we've got the astronomical level above us, that really places us all. It levels us all into the same equal terrestrial level, and that's what I love about astronism as a religion, because it focuses on that, and it says that you can be anywhere in the world and practice this. And that's what I love about astronism the most. Of course, there are many other aspects, though. I love transcension. I love the ultimation, of course. I love that. There's many different types of beliefs in astronism that I particularly love and that are particularly central to astronism, particular words that I like that I've coined. I love some of those. But I think the underlying theme of astronism, that universality of it, is what I love the most about it. Okay. Question 4. What are your future ambitions? Well, there's a lot. I think that what I could do is split this question into 2. Let's start with the ambitions for astronism first. My ambitions for astronism are for it just to kind of develop naturally, and just to write as much as I can about it, and bring as much out into the world about astronism from this brain of mine. That's all I want to do in terms of astronism. I just want to make it the biggest, best that it could ever possibly be during my lifetime. I want to contribute as much as I possibly can to the history, development, and understanding of astronism, and of course transcension. That's my ultimate goal with regards to astronism. In terms of astronism itself, of course, I have ambitions to create sophariums, which are astronist buildings for people who don't know, or to get astronism recognized. That's certainly one of my main ambitions with astronism. So yes, there's many other ambitions that come around that, but for me, centrally, developing astronism at a theological, philosophical, theoretical level is my ultimate ambition, really, with regards to astronism, and writing the best possible works about astronism. That's what I love to do, and that's one of my main ambitions with that. Now, on the other side of things, I have a lot of other ambitions that are still connected to astronism, but they are kind of, I suppose we could actually split this question into 3, actually. So you've got astronism specific ambitions with regards to astronism, and then second, we've got kind of my personal career ambitions, which I would say, of course, is to work in the human rights field, which of course is why I'm doing my PhD in that field at the moment. So that is definitely something I want to do. I want to become known for working in that field and contributing to it as much as I can, both academically, but also practically, actually working in the field. So that's something that I really want to do, and it's a big passion of mine, is the human rights. And then secondly, I think that with regards to astronism in my personal career, my academic career, what I would love to do at some point in my life is to work with a university and found a Astronist Studies Centre or something like that. An Astronist Studies Centre is what I've envisioned. I would love to have that, where, you know, people can enroll on different courses and just learn and contribute to astronism, that new concept development, which is really important. That kind of Astronist Studies Centre could produce new ideas, new approaches to transcension and all other aspects of astronism. So that is one of my main ambitions, is to work with a university and set up my own Astronist maybe academy or study center. I mean, there's a lot of other ones that I've seen. There's like Islamic study centers or Christian study centers and things like that. So I want to create my own version of that for astronism. That, I would say, is my ultimate ambition with regards to astronism in my academic career, is to create this kind of Astronist Studies Center. Let me think if there is any other sort of professional, I think just traveling as well with my profession. I would really love to do that, and give lectures on astronism or any of my other theories regarding human rights, for example, around the world. I'd love to do that, and I'm going to build hopefully a business out of doing those kind of lectures in the future. So I really want to do that and just travel with my job. And then obviously on the personal side, which is maybe what the original person who asked this was actually really wanting to get to, which is my personal ambitions. Well, I want to be a father. I really do. I want my own family. It may not seem like it, because I think a lot of people, when they think about me, they think about a professional person in terms of my career focused, person. We're actually, yes, that is true, but actually I'm a very family oriented person. I love just hanging out with my little siblings. I love hanging out with my grandparents. I love that family time, and I love family. Family is really, really important to me. So I want to create my own. And so I really want to be a dad. I can't wait for the day that I have children. And hopefully that won't be too long of a wait, because I don't want to be too old as a dad. So that's definitely one of my ambitions personally. And then also, I think that my other ambition is to maybe live in a different country for a time, not forever, but for a time. I'd love to live in a different country, and also get on the property ladder as well is something I really want to do. And just sort of live a normal life as well in that sense, which doesn't seem to kind of fit in with my my life so far, because I don't really live much of a normal life. But I kind of think I do want more of a normal kind of existence. Maybe that's more of an ideal rather than an ambition, because I don't know if that's ever going to be realistic, to be honest. But those are my main ambitions, and as you can tell, there are quite a few. Question 5. So we're halfway through. There's 10 questions, and then I've also got a bonus question as well. So question 5, what worries you most about the world right now? Well, right now there is a war taking place in Ukraine, and there is a lot of atrocities taking place there, shall we say. There are also other wars taking place around the world, as there always possibly will be. And these things obviously worry me and concern me about the future of humanity. But what comes into it for me, I think, is the Astronist perspective, of course, because that's how I view the world. And the Astronist perspective for me is that things like war and conflict and human rights abuses, and totalitarianism, authoritarianism, these problems, what they demonstrate to me is the absolute necessity of transcension. And I don't want to make this too much astronistic answer, but it is coming into it. It does come into it. Transcension comes into it. And immediately when I thought about Ukraine and the things that are taking place there, when it first started happening and we weren't sure how this was going to take place or the amount of atrocity that was going to take place, the very fact that someone that a world leader would conduct themselves in this way and enter a sovereign country, it demonstrated to me very sadly that we just aren't where we ought to be as a species right now, as a world. And we just really aren't ready for transcension at all. We aren't ready for space exploration. And this comes to my biggest worry, which is that I suppose it's two-pronged, really. The first element is, will we ever be ready to embark upon those endeavors of space exploration and transcension? Will we ever be ready for that? And that's something that worries me. And then secondly, because that has consequences for the future of humanity, long-term consequences, leading to our extinction, I believe. And then secondly, I think what really worries me as well is if we're going to take this approach that seems to be growing in the world of disregard for human rights and disregard for people's sovereignty and people's lives. Are we going to take that to outer space? And are we just going to take the same problems that we have here on Earth to other worlds? And of course, this also has implications for climate change. Environmentalist concerns come into it for me as well. And are we just going to wreck other planets by engaging in space exploration? These things worry me the most about the long-term future of humanity. And I think that things like the war in Ukraine right now are signs of that we are not ready to engage with transcension or space exploration, because we're going to take these problems with us. And I think we need to elevate ourselves as a species before we can conduct any kind of long-term space expansion, really, because it all comes down to space for me. And some people may get annoyed when I'm sort of talking about space as the biggest worry, but it is for me. That is an astronist. I wouldn't be an astronist if space wasn't on my mind 24/7, you know. So for me, that is the biggest worry, is that we're never going to be ready and to outer space or to engage with transcension, and that really we're just going to take our problems with us. We're just going to take that same, what we call it, contrarian, that same mindset. We're going to take that with us. And that's the biggest worry for me. Okay, so question 6, what is the hardest part of your working life? I would say the hardest part is sometimes the amount of hours that need to be put in just to get by, just to keep things running. There's a lot of things that I want to do that I just don't get time to do. Someone said this to me the other day. It was like, your astronism.org website hasn't been updated in extensively in 2 years. And they're so right. They are right. And that is a concern for me. But I just don't have time to do that right now. I'm just a single person. Still, there are other people who help, but they aren't as dedicated to things as myself, of course. So I think that is the hardest thing, is when it just feels like you're the only one who cares. Do you know what I mean? That type of thing. That's the hardest part about my particular area of work, and just the amount of hours just to get by is difficult. And also, finally, as well, one of the hardest parts is never feeling satisfied with the work that I've done. And so I've put so much hours into this work. For example, the Omnidoxy or other books that I've written. Sometimes I feel that I could have done better. Do you know what I mean? Writing those books and producing those books. And that's for everything. It's not just the Omnidoxy or books. It's websites. It's everything I do. It can be quite draining when you feel like everything you do isn't sufficient or could be better. It keeps you going. It does keep you going, but at the same time, it is very suppressing. And it's very difficult in that way, because you're never satisfied. And in that sense, I'm an artist, because you do hear artists talking about this a lot. And I sometimes do consider myself an artist. I'm just an artist with words. I'm an artist with my mind, with philosophy. And they talk about this idea that, you know, they've spent 3 years on a single, for example, you know, like a musician or a singer, and they've produced this over the few years, or an album, maybe you could produce a single in quicker than 3 years, but maybe an album, let's say. And you've heard artists before say that, you know, they think they could have done better. Now that keeps you going, because if you reach your ultimate, then, you know, at such a young age as well, then there's a problem, I think. But it is just kind of tiring sometimes. So I think that's when you have to kind of step back and appreciate things. There's just these little techniques that you can employ in order to get over some of these silly things you can start thinking. So I would say that's the hardest part, though, is not appreciating yourself enough and not appreciating what you've written, and thinking that it isn't sufficient enough, when it actually is. It's just that you're developing along with it. So of course, books that I've written years ago now won't seem as good as books that maybe you're writing now, you know. So that's the hardest part, I would say one of the hardest parts. Trying to think if there's any others. No, I think that is maybe the hardest part. The amount of hours, yeah, that the amount of hours that you have to do just to get by, I would say as well, is really hard. Question 7. This is a little bit more upbeat question, I think. Question 7. What do you think will become of astronomism in the future? Well, whoever asked this, thank you very much, because I love this question. I foresee astronomism as becoming a world religion. Not just actually a world religion, a universal religion, a religion that is on multiple worlds, and in multiple species, hopefully, eventually. But yeah, I would say in the short-term future, I see astronomism becoming a world religion, a fully fledged philosophy, religion, movement, and just developing from there. And that's how I foresee astronomism. And anyone who's looking at this video in 50 or 100 years' time, hopefully that prediction has come true. I think it will, because we're on track for that anyway, because astronomism is naturally a developed religion and philosophy. It's amazing already, and this is the point. You've got to appreciate what it is. It is already amazing, and it is already cool, and whatever else you want to say about it, you know, it is already all those things. It's just that obviously over time it will gain more recognition, I think, is what I'm basically talking about when I say that it will become a world religion. But yes, I do foresee that. I do foresee that as being the future of astronomism. And of course, astronomism will develop long after I'm gone, and that it will be the biggest challenge for astronomism. But also I think that it will take on a life of its own. Astronomism at the moment is on life support because it is attached to me. You know, it's like attached to me. You can imagine like a tube going into me, and astronomism's here. It's like a tube, and it's kind of, you know, if I stopped doing astronomism, then it wouldn't develop any further because I'm the only one at this stage who has the current know-how to deal with astronomism and to know what astronomism needs. I'm hoping that in the future that I will be able to delegate more, and let go of astronomism and let the world take it and see where it goes to. But at this stage, it is still on life support. He's been born. It's not dying, but it's like a newborn baby, but it's like a premature one. It's like, you know, it's like one where that's, you know, got the tube, and it's you know, trying to get that life, it's trying to cling to that life. And that's how I see it, because if I did walk away from it now, it would still exist, it would still be there, but it wouldn't be, what it could be. And so that comes down to scope as well, but I'm not going to get into that because that would make it a very academic video, and it's not supposed to be. But that, if you want to know about scope, then that's what it would be, is the opportunity to the opportunity to deal with astronomism in that way is scope. It is the opportunity for transcension. I could walk away from astronomism, but I know that I have an obligation to it, and I have a destiny that I have to fulfill. And so that is part of astronomism's future, I would say, and my role in that religion. Question 8, who inspires you the most? Well, there's a lot of people, actually, and in different categories, I think. In terms of philosophers, I would say someone like Giordano Bruno, who was burned to the stake for his beliefs and ideas about the cosmos. I think that he obviously inspires me, someone who is dedicated and who is convicted, who has conviction, who has sort of that dedication, who has that belief, that unyielding belief. That's what I love. People like that who rightly or wrongly, whether they are right or not in their beliefs, they still hold to them, and because that's what you need in order for beliefs to develop and for beliefs to continue to exist, or else they'll just die out. So someone like Giordano Bruno, I mean, there's many different philosophers in terms of who inspire me. I would say, I mean, in terms of philosophers in the ancient world, I would say the Greek philosophers, of course. I think this has been written about quite a bit regarding me, where, I was inspired to become anonymous because of the Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, those great people, Confucius as well. So those individuals in the ancient world, of course, so sort of those historical, semi-historical figures, I definitely really am inspired by them. And then more recent philosophers, I would maybe even say someone like Karl Marx in that sense. And I know that might be controversial, but I think what I liked about him academically, not necessarily his ideas, because I don't agree with his ideas per se, but what he did in being able to write a manifesto as he did, and to develop those ideas and to put them across in a way that resonated with people. I really admire that, because that's something that I have to do with astronomism, or else astronomism will die out, is astronomism has to resonate with people. And if you don't quite get it right, it's like when you're baking a cake and you don't quite get it right, you don't get all those ingredients and they're not precise, then it dies, then it doesn't taste very good. That is what it's like. So he managed to do that for his own separate philosophy, for his own cause. And so that's what I do with my cause. So we've all just got different causes, campaigns, things that we believe in, but there's this underlying ability for a philosopher to make their ideas relevant and to make them resonate for the general public, but also different layers of society, the general public, people who don't have specialist knowledge, but then also people who do have specialist knowledge, and you have to cater to both, and it can sometimes be difficult, especially the public. I would say the more difficult one is the general public, because I'm all in academics, so I can, when I'm talking to someone else who has specialist knowledge, I can use terminology and language that resonates with them, because they understand it too. But when you're dealing with the general public, you have to strip that language back, and you really have to get rid of some of those terms that are more specialist. And sometimes that can be quite difficult when you've got new ideas that are difficult to explain without using those specialist terms. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. You do have to kind of work around that a little bit. And then sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent then. So those are some of the philosophers. Basically anyone who's, managed to get their ideas out there is someone who inspires me. But then also personally, my granny was definitely someone who inspired me, Irene Mary Taylor, because of her devotion, because of her conviction, because of her even if she was wrong, or even if you consider her to have been wrong in what she believed, or mistaken, for example, in what she believed, you can't fault that she was dedicated to that, and she had conviction and integrity, and never faltered on her Catholic belief and her Catholic faith. And so that's, again, what has inspired me. And also children inspire me. My little brothers and sisters, they inspire me as well. I love talking to them, and their naive minds can soak up so much. They're like sponges, and I love that. They remember things that adults can't always remember, because we've got busy lives, and we don't always take everything in, but they do. And so that inspires me, because in a way, the young are who are going to take the ideas forward. So yeah, there's a lot of different people who inspire me in a lot of different ways, and they not necessarily have done amazing things. Some people who inspire me are just because they have conviction and dedication, and that's it. And they have these really good quality characteristics. They don't have to have, walked the moon or something like that, even though I do love Neil Armstrong and he inspires me. But actually, the people who actually inspire me are more down-to-earth people, funnily enough, people who just believe, and who have conviction and integrity, and who have depth, who aren't shallow, and a little bit sometimes controversial people can inspire me sometimes as well, because I'm sometimes seen as a controversial figure, so we have to kind of huddle together. But so I think that there's a lot of different people who could inspire me for different reasons. Okay, question 9. What is your greatest fear? Well, I'm afraid I've got quite a few different phobias. I would say the main one at the moment is heights. I really can't do heights at the moment. Flying on a plane, yeah, I'm all right still. I up and down with that. I was okay last time I went on a plane, but sometimes that can have fears, within me. But then also heights, I really don't like. No, even watching a video where I was on Instagram, and they were like showing them jumping off a hot air balloon, and I just thought, oh my goodness, that's my worst nightmare. So yeah, definitely heights. But I think this person's actually not talking about phobias. I think they're talking more about the world, maybe. I think my greatest fear, I think I maybe said this earlier, but I think my greatest fear is that humanity doesn't change and grow and develop. And that's my biggest fear. And sometimes you don't always see humanity doing that. And I think that in that sense, my greatest fear is that humanity will keep regressing. Example, the war in Ukraine right now. So that to me is an example of regression, not progression. And so that's why I worry that, I suppose that's my greater worry, but it's also my greatest fear, is that humanity won't step up to its destiny, really. And again, bringing transcension into it, that humanity won't embark upon transcension. I think that is actually my ultimate greatest fear. And obviously that will then mean that astronomism hasn't been successful. And so again, that's another of my fears. I have many fears. So I'm quite a worrier in that sense. I've got quite a lot of worries about the world and the way the world is, which I think is natural for any philosopher to be like that. But yes, those are some of my main fears. And then, of course, heights is my main phobia, I would say. And question 10, what projects are you working on right now? Well, the main one is my PhD. I'm still doing that. I'm in my second year now. I'm conducting interviews with experts, but also people who have experienced human rights violations themselves. Really enjoying it. It's been really great so far. I've learned so much. So I'd say that is my main project. And then second to that, very close second, is Astrodoxy, which is my new book, which is, well, it's a new treatise, really. It's the second Astronist treatise after the Omnidoxy. It will be the central Astronist treatise, the central text of astronomism. And so that is a very important work. It is a very important project for me to undertake. And so for me, those are the two main projects. And then I've got other little ones, or, you know, less central ones. One of those being my grandparents' beatification, the beatification of Irene Mary and Derek Taylor. That is, you know, a project that I do spend some time on as well. We just published in the last couple of days the Locutions of Derek Taylor, which was a illustration that I had done of my grandfather, and then also a book that I wrote as an exegesis of his interview. So there's that project's ongoing. And then also Ancestry, which again is sort of a connected project to everything that I do, really. That is another major project that is ongoing. All of them are ongoing. They're all ongoing. And of course, Astronism itself is a ongoing project. So there's quite a few different things. But I would say obviously the PhD at the moment is the one that is front and center for me. And then the bonus question to finish this little Q&A, which I hope you guys have enjoyed, is, will there be season 4 of a conversation with Cometan? I can announce today that there will be, which is really exciting. There will be a season 4, and that will be coming out quite a while off, actually, because there's, you know, we've still got a lot of work to do, and I've got other commitments and obligations, but there will be a season 4. I can confirm that. And I suppose, you know, I'll see you then, I suppose, but for season 4. But we've still got a few episodes left of season 3, so I hope that you'll enjoy those. Those will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But that's it for the Q&A. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Please like, subscribe to the Astronism channel for any future updates, and also for future episodes of A Conversation with Cometan. As this season 3 begins to come to a close, I want to know your feedback on the whole season and what you thought, what you want to see more of. What kinds of videos, you know, do you like more videos like this, where I'm just kind of talking into the camera in a singular format, or do you like more interviews? Let me know. I mean, I think with season 3, what I've tried to do is mix it up and do, you know, interviews sometimes, and then do more lectures, you know, so I've tried to mix it all together. season one was more interviews heavy. I think I only did about 2 lectures as part of season one, and then season two. I think that we still did quite a few different interviews. I think season two is pretty mixed. And then season three, I think again, has been pretty mixed. So I think that is a nice way to do things, but just let me know in the comments what you think. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I will see you for episode 21 of season 3 of A Conversation with Cometan, which will be coming out next week. See you later, guys.